All right, welcome back to the Elias Macko Show. We're with you straight through to noon as we begin this third hour of the program. Now, over 80 Canadian law firms have come together to write a letter addressed to Canadian law school deans. They say that they're concerned about unacceptable campus conduct and the importance of Canadian values. We go now to Ronald Toledano, a partner and intellectual property lawyer at Spiegel Sohmer. Ronald, welcome to the program.
Hi, Elias. Thank you for having me.
So let's talk about where this all comes from. I'm just reading a bit of your letter here from you and the other law firms. You write this: over the last several weeks, we have been alarmed by the surging reports of anti-Semitic harassment, vandalism, and assaults on university campuses. These include protesters calling for the deaths of Jews. Such anti-Semitic acts would never be tolerated at any of our law firms, nor should they be tolerated at our Canadian universities. What's going on here, Ronald? Why is it being tolerated?
Well, I mean, it shouldn't be tolerated. We don't understand why it's being tolerated. And, we've been monitoring, everybody's been monitoring what's been happening, especially on campuses lately. It's a hotbed, it's a hot spot. And a number of lawyers in Montreal, we decided to get together and address the issue and start this initiative where we would, contact the university deans, in particular the deans of the law schools, to go and see how they can let them know, first of all, what our concerns were, namely that the conduct is wrong and attention is required to go and make sure the students feel safe and secure and respected.
How do you view the law faculties specifically here? How have they been handling this? Because I think you could get varying reactions depending on faculties at universities. What's your estimation of the law faculties at these institutions?
Well, it's not targeting the law faculties themselves. I don't think it's really to go and look at department by department, but as universities as a whole. And for us we're law firms, right? Mm-hmm. We would never accept this type of hostility or harassment in our offices. And we're also the future employers who recruit from the university law schools. So we look to them to make sure that the students are well prepared to join our legal community. And that's a community that has zero tolerance for discrimination or harassment. Are
there been instances in this country where you've seen some of the students that have been doing this conduct that's deemed unacceptable in your letter that have been trying to get jobs at your law firms?
Well, not specifically law students as of yet in this country. We've seen it in the United States, that's for certain. But I can say that a student who's going to go and act in a way that's unacceptable on a discrimination or harassment level, I mean, that's not a type of student that we would want at our law firm.
And what's the reaction from universities so far that have received your letter?
So we've heard back from some deans, and they've offered to go and to engage in some discussions, which is encouraging, and we're happy about that. So we responded back to them, and we're looking forward to going and having further discussions with them to go and see what they're planning to do on their campuses to go and address the situation.
We saw last week, right? And this is these moments went around the globe. They went viral. The moments from Congress with the heads of Harvard and Penn University and MIT speaking before Congress, unable to answer what most people would deem a simple question about if calling for the death of Jews or calling for genocide constitutes harassment, right? And we saw these, various answers. None of them came up to the standards for most people here. When you saw that happening south of the border, do you draw any parallels to what you've seen in Canada?
Well, the parallels, the situation is very similar across the border in terms of the acts that are unacceptable. As far as the position of the deans of these universities, I'm hoping that the Canadian university deans would not take such a disgusting stance and play semantics. We all appreciate that, it's important to encourage discourse amongst the students, even when it comes to sensitive topics. But the first, most important priority of every university must be the safety and security of its students. This is the university's responsibility, and when students feel unsafe to go to school, they feel threatened while in school, the university has failed. That's a failure by them to ensure a safe and harassment-free environment.
We're with Ronald Toledano, a partner and intellectual property lawyer at Spiegel Sohmer. Spiegel Sohmer, one of the law firms that is part of this letter that's been sent to Canadian law school deans. Ronald, have Have Canadian universities lost their way?
In some respect, yes, when you look at what's going on campuses and then the response to what's going on campuses. It's not good enough to have policies if those policies don't have teeth. It's not good enough when you have students coming out and saying, I'm scared to go to school. There's a problem, and the universities have an obligation. It's not that they just need to. They have an obligation to ensure that their schools are harassment-free, there's no hostility, and they do their utmost to go and make sure that students go feel safe and secure and actually can and do what they're supposed to do, which is learn.
Are these universities applying their codes of conduct fairly? Are you the stuff that we have seen that targets Jewish students? If it had happened to any other type of minority, would they have gotten the pass that we've seen so far?
Look, I can't speak to that. I don't know whether or not they would have gotten the same pass or not. We're looking to go and engage in constructive communication with the universities. We're not trying to point fingers at anybody, but we're trying to go and find out, what steps are you taking? Because clearly the way things have been going up until now, it's not acceptable. And, we're a large number of law firms across the country, completely across the country. I'm talking going all the way from one end to the other. And we're not even at 80 anymore. We have more law firms that have joined on. We're at over 110 at this moment as of today and growing. And law firms are continuing to sign on every single day. There's a problem. And, you can't just say, I have a policy and it is what it is. You have to look at and what concrete measures are you going to take? Look at the problems you have on your campuses and provide solutions, because this can't keep going on.
What are the concrete measures that you'd like to see?
I don't know, to be honest with you, at this moment. It's not for me as a lawyer to go and tell the university what they need to do. They are dealing with these instances on their campuses themselves, and we're asking them to go and share with us what their plans are that are reasonable and make sense in terms of providing a more secure environment on their campuses.
Specifically,
really, the burden is on them to go and make sure that this happens.
And with our Montreal institutions, and obviously I'm thinking about Concordia and McGill top of the list here. Anything specific to those institutions that you'd like to talk about?
Well, we all saw in the news, we read, we listened to you, we saw videos at Concordia, the disgusting behavior last month. They clearly need to go and take certain steps. Concordia doesn't have a law school, so I'm not addressing our letter directly to them. McGill does. And in McGill, it's not only what's going on with the students directly, but it's including the student societies, as well as the other universities have student societies where these societies, these groups, as well as outside groups that are far too often welcome on campus, that promote this promote the hatred and all of the harassment that's been going on. And they're either directly or indirectly funded by the schools, and that needs to be addressed as well.
And if we could wrap up by talking about, the line between students and their right to speech, free speech on campus, for them to share their opinions and ideas, versus the stuff that goes down the line of harassment. What's the line? What's the line that we should be looking at? Because I would imagine we want to foster university campuses where people feel free to share their opinions.
Absolutely. It's one of the priorities of every university to make sure that the discourse is there, including very sensitive, and hot topics. That's a good thing. But the university can't forget their primary responsibility, which is to make sure that every single one of their students, every one of that student body feels safe and secure, and it is safe and secure. The problem happens when there are threats, whether they're veiled threats or direct threats. The university has to make sure that they don't allow for that in the environment.
We have to leave it there. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show, Ronald. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Elias.
Ronald Toledano is a partner and intellectual property lawyer at Spiegel Sohmer.